Good morning, dosto. Let me tell you about some important events which have taken place. सबसे पहले तो the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had called for general elections, and these are going to be held on 4th of July. और जो conservatives हैं, they are at the moment under threat because by-elections में they have been losing to the Labour. So I do not know who's going to win now. Labour must be fancying their chances that they'll win the election, but I think it's my personal hunch that the Tories under Sunak will scrape through. So we'll have to wait and watch. Now, the second bigger development is, of course, as I've told you earlier, the death of the Iranian president in an air crash, and Iran has directly blamed the United States for it. And their reason is very simple. They say America is the country which has enforced sanctions on Iran, with the result that the helicopters could not be serviced, and indirectly the death is at the door of America. पर एक चांस है, and there's a distinct possibility मेरे हिसाब से, कि this gentleman could have been blown up by opponents of the Iranian regime. Because Iran में and Paris में and Germany and England, lots of Iranians have gathered together for celebrations on the death of the Iranian president. So ये कोई अच्छी बात नहीं है, but the fact is a fact. So people are feeling little relieved कि इतना hardliner, a man who is such a big hardliner, has been sent to the next world. Well, I'm neither for nor against him, but definitely he's going to create a void in the Iranian leadership, and they'll have to now think what is to be done. Another big development which we are waiting for is the 4th of June, where there is an election result due in India. And lots of people from the opposition, are talking that the BJP has lost the election. There's an old saying that if wishes were horses, beggars will ride. I think this about sums up the dream of those people who are thinking they're going to dethrone Modi. As it stands, as I've told you earlier, Modi has got the 12th house and Saturn is in that, and that is no doubt the Napoleonic house, but the time of his defeat has not yet come. And he's going to win this election again, and I think he's going to get a lot more seats than the 303 which he got in the 2019 election. So this is something which people must beware, that Modi is going to win. And there is another very big thing which has never happened in the history of India. One Indian submarine and our latest frigate with an oil tanker in tow are right now in the South China Sea. And our foreign minister, Mr. Jaishankar, has told the Philippines, you don't worry, we are on your side against China. So India is expanding its footprints. And add to this statement by Rajnath Singh that India is going to build 6 aircraft carriers, and you know where India is heading for. Recently in Delhi, there was a conference held by First Post, and the well-known American commentator John Mishmer had come there. And I have listened to what he was to say, and he's made some very interesting observations. He says India is now the aspiring superpower. That's a big statement from American, because as the saying goes, that how you look, only the mirror can tell you. And people like Rahul Gandhi and all, they keep beating their breasts, we are world champions, we are this thing, that thing, but nobody else is saying it. Neither the Americans, nor the Pakistanis, nobody. I was listening also to Sajid Tarar, who's a Pakistani settled in America, and he's a member of the Republican Party. And at the recent Republican convention, I heard his speech in support of Trump. And he has very clearly said that India is very lucky to have Narendra Modi as Prime Minister. I think, it's a replete of history. If you remember that the last Hindu emperor who ruled the world was Kanishk. People talk of Ashok, but Ashok was a Buddhist. He was not a Hindu. Chandragupta was a Jain. He was also not a Hindu. The last Hindu emperor was Kanishk, and a period of 2,500 years, and now we have got Modi. That is my personal feeling. And this moving of the Indian warships in the South China Sea is a manifestation of power. I haven't heard about it any time in my life that anything happened like this, that India projected its power in the backyard of China. That's very important. And not only that, we have sold missiles to the Philippines for almost $250 million. And these missiles are, of course, co-production of India and Russia, but the Russians are not objected. And these missiles are now part of the Philippine defense system. More than Ukraine or any other place, the place where the Third World War could start is the South Pacific. That is the South China Sea. That is almost written down as it is. I think Nostradamus also has made certain forecasts like that. Recently, the Philippine president had been to America, and they reworded the defense pact between America and the Philippines. Now the pact says that any attack on a Philippine ship of the Navy or the Merchant Navy in the South China Sea would be considered an attack on America. There's a very big change in the security setup of the Philippines and America, and China is now getting worried. Because even if they attack one Philippine ship, it means America will come on the side of the Philippines. So China must be ruining their luck, if you ask me, because they put their eggs in the basket of Pakistan, and Pakistan is a bankrupt state. I still couldn't understand what the Chinese got out of investing in Pakistan. They invested, I think, of $40 or $50 billion, and it's like throwing all the money into an abyss of no return. It's not going to come back. No, sir. That's the end of it. Money is lost. And the importance of the Gwadar port is also lost, because Iran has given a 10-year contract to India to run the Charbahar port, which is about 200 kilometers east of Gwadar, and that's going to be the lifeline to Afghanistan. And of course, the doorway to Central Asia. So India is going to operate that port for 10 years. They will run it, they will man it, and they will invest money. And India is going to invest $250 million in that amount, in that port. Now, India has a danger on the northern border, but I have repeatedly brought out that the Chinese army has not got any experience of high altitude combat. That's number one. Number two, they have a serious morale problem with the one son syndrome so prevalent in China, and the Chinese army is a conscripted army, and those people who join come for 4 years, and nobody wants to die in those 4 years and go back. Unfortunately, Modi has introduced the same thing in the Indian army, that is Agniveer, and that's a big disaster. I hope Modi can think over it and get out of that scheme, because you can't have, in a country like India with no shortage of manpower, an Agniveer system of recruitment. It's just not required. And nor is it good for the defense of the country. And I do hope that Modi can think over it and say bye-bye to the Agniveer. It's for the good of India. So, gentlemen, there is a topsy-turvy situation in the world. And in Ukraine, the Russians are finally calling the shots. I think they moved into tens of miles of territory of the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians don't know what's happening. They have lowered the conscription age to recruit men But shouldn't be forgotten that 20 to 25% of the population floating around in Europe as refugees. Those fellows don't know what to do. And the Europeans are very happy because they're getting cheap labor. But the dice now seems to be loaded against Zelensky. And given plus and minus 2 or 3 weeks, the Russians should make the big breakthrough. See, Russia may not be an economic power, but it's a big military power. And Russia and India are having a good relationship. And the biggest thing which has happened is now that Russia and India are negotiating for a visa-free entry to Russia and India. That's a big thing. And all credit to Narendra Modi that he's got it through. I was just wondering if by chance these vagabonds, led by Rahul Gandhi had come into power in the 2024 election, India would be ruined. You see the statements which this man is making. He's saying he's going to take back Article 370. He's going to reinstate it. He's saying that he's going to have a caste census. Number 3, he's saying that he doesn't want India to be nuclear. I mean, one cannot think of man being so stupid to make such statements. But then, that's what Rahul probably believes in. Because what does it show? It shows he's so desperate to come to power. Now he's just sitting outside, the prince without a kingdom. That's how it is. And he's actually the great pretender. If you remember, in England, there was a king who was known as the great pretender, who wanted to be king of England when he was not. And this is the same thing with Rahul Gandhi. He doesn't know which way the wind is blowing. His politics is poor. He doesn't have maturity, and he's a pretty oldish chap. He's not a young boy of 21 years. They can take excuse and say, I don't know what's happening and all that. But unfortunately, this man is pretty mature, and all he's done is to keep his sister out of politics. Now, my view information is that his sister and brother do have some friction. And Jijaji, this fellow Vadra, wanted to contest the Amethi seat, but he was not allowed to because Gandhi, that is Rahul Gandhi, didn't want anybody from the Vadra family, even his sister, to contest from there. So, gentlemen, it's a peculiar situation. It's the demise of the Congress party. I don't visualize them getting even 25 or 30 seats in this coming election. And though the BJP may have a little loss here and there, but overall they will sail through. We must remember that the target is just 272 seats, and the BJP is going to achieve that anyway. In the system of governance which we have, if you win 272 seats, what happens? You form the government. That's all. So what you need is 272. You don't need 354 and all that. You need 272, and if the BJP gets that, they form the government. And now, the so-called pro-correspondence of the Indian Alliance, that is led by Rajdeep Sardesai, they have also conceded that the Congress is going to lose and the BJP is going to form the government, and very grudgingly they are saying they will win more than 272 seats. As I told you, the important thing is 272 seats. 350, 400, these are all numbers. You have 272, you form the government, you run the government, you make the laws. And that is what is going to happen. And you don't have a viable opposition. Rahul Gandhi is going to win about 25 seats, that's about all. And he'll be lucky to have a seat in Parliament, otherwise he would be just barking outside Parliament House. I hope that doesn't happen. And he's able to win a seat in the Parliament. Now, China is another person I wanted to touch on. And China is facing economic crisis. And you can watch it, gentlemen, in another 3 to 4 years' time, China is going to crash. You know, the famous story, the house that Jack built. Well, that is the Chinese house, and it's going to collapse like a pack of cards stuck. China is in serious problem economically. And the deep pockets which they have are turning into shallow pockets because they're not getting the returns back. Pakistan, zero. Many African countries now feel that China's misled them their returns from those countries are zero. And of course, America has put special tariffs on China, and nobody knows what's going to happen next. So, gentlemen, the last hotspot I'm going to touch upon is Israel. I think Israel is going to win this war. I have no doubt about it. Let's be very clear. They have mounted the attack on Rafah, and they are going about in a big way. Some of the biggest tunnels there have been flooded. I think many of these so-called fighters have been killed, sent to the next world. You know, as per the Islamic thought, you're supposed to get 72 of the most beautiful women as huras. I think they must have gone there. I wish them all the best. And with Iran in serious problem as the leadership is defunct, and now we have this defeat of Hamas, which is certain. I think after this, Israel could turn its attention to Hezbollah, which is operating in the Syrian heights as well as Lebanon. We'll have to see, gentlemen, what happens now, because the world is in a state of flux. In a state of flux, I mean, is that we don't know really what's going to happen next. And there could be any time somebody could light the match and we could have Third World War coming. So there are a lot of hotspots here in the world. We'll have to see where things are going to turn. There's an election on in England. And another point which we must bring out here is that France is having a tough time. You know, in New Caledonia, the French are on the back foot. The people there want independence. They said we will have a civil war. New Caledonia is one of the French overseas territories. And it's about time I'll make a separate video that all these overseas territories which England have also got, like Gibraltar, the Falkland Islands, St. Helena, all of them should be sent back to the parent country. France also similarly, as it is, the French are persona non grata in Western Africa now, and people are throwing them out and they're getting the Russians in. So, gentlemen, I think the sun is now setting on the British Empire, and ipso facto, the American Empire also is crumbling. It will require a great man to pull them out, and I hope Donald Trump can win this election. In the end of 2024, in America is going to be one of the most crucial elections we can think of. And if Donald Trump can sweep it, I think America will have breathing space, because he's got fundamentals clear. What are those fundamentals? NATO is an obsolete organization. We should accommodate with Russia and encircle China. He's very clear about it. Okay, gentlemen, I think I'll close. These are rambling thoughts on what's happened. I've covered so many topics in this short video. I hope you like my video. Share it with your friends. And I look forward to further interaction with you. God bless. Take care.